What's up? It's Jen Brown. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a crochet project that can work as a scrap yarn project and or a one-day crochet project if you don't include the hour or so I spent cutting all of the ends off of this. I did do that on the second day. We're making this vest. You can use a ton of colors for this, like I did, a couple of colors. The possibilities are endless, so let's get into the process of making it. Okay, so we're going to start with the front part, which obviously I've already done half of it here. You could, when you go to do this, instead of stopping like I did here and making another panel, you can just do increases instead of decreases and keep going. I don't know, I was kind of in the mood to just do this in two pieces. Sometimes I like a visible seam on the front of something to add a little bit more interest, so I decided to do this in two panels. You can do it in one. So for this one, I'm doing half double crochets and I'm doing vertical stripes on the front. I think I'm actually going to do horizontal stripes on the back, so I'll show you how that works out when I'm finished. So I made this just as long as I wanted it to be, so for me that is 60 chains. So I'm starting out chaining my 60 and doing half double crochets. So I'm just going to chain 2 and then do my half double crochets, and I will just be doing this pattern until the shoulder part is as wide as I wanted it to be. So that is 7 rows. Then I'll show you how to decrease. Okay, so now that I've reached the end of row 7, it's time to start decreasing. So I'm going to start row 8 and complete it almost as normal. I'm just going to stop one short. So instead of doing 60 stitches, I'm going to do 59. Okay, so now that I've reached stitch 59, to turn and continue to decrease, I'm just going to chain 1, turn, then slip stitch into this first stitch, then chain again, and then continue with my half double crochets as normal. So you can start to see that that is beginning to decrease. So we're just going to continue like that, decreasing by 1 each time until this is as wide as you want it to be. So for me, that's a total of 21 rows. This half is 21 rows across. Okay, so now I've got both my panels, and my next step is to decide which way is the front, which that's going to be this, and then I am going to single crochet up the center of this. You can slip stitch as well. Like I mentioned earlier, I want to have a visible seam here, so I'm going to do a single crochet, but if I didn't want the seam to be so visible, I would slip stitch the back sides together and then flip it over. So I will put these sides together. This darker purple is what I've chosen to be the seam color. So now I've got this seam here. There's so many stripes, it's a little hard to tell, but I have this now stitched together. So now for the back, which I've already done, like I said before, you can do vertical stripes and just do the same thing, only instead of decreasing, just go straight across. But I wanted to make this a little bit more wild and do horizontal stripes. So for this, I did 50 chains across. It's 44 rows high to match the height of the front. So once you've created your back, whether it's horizontal or vertical stripes, your next step is to slip stitch it together at the shoulders and up the sides, however big you want your armholes to be. Okay, so I've got my shoulders stitched up and went up the sides. If you're following my measurements exactly, I ended up going 27 stitches up on either side. So our final step is going to be doing the neck and the hem, and then I'm actually going to do not a sleeve, but a bit of a cuff around the sleeves as well. So to bring a little bit of consistency to this, if you've seen previous videos or if you've done stuff like this before, it's really helpful to do a row of single crochets before you start doing any sort of sleeve or cuff or neckline. So I'm actually going to take this same purple that I did for the center seam, and around each of the arms, the neckline, and the hem, I'm going to do one row of single crochets with the same purple. When I come to these sort of bumps where the stitch has come over, instead of going just in one loop, I kind of go through the middle to help smooth that out. And the same goes when you get to these valleys. We'll do one more here. To keep this from getting too wrinkly, you kind of go either in the next stitch or in the dip of this valley. So that starts to create more of a straight line. It's not going to be perfectly straight, but we're going to do a little bit of a trim around the neck that'll help straighten that out as well. So I'm going to do this all the way around the neck, all the way around each of the armholes, and then around the base as well. And I'll meet you back to show you how we're going to do those. Okay, so now I'm ready to start working on the collar. So I'm going to start here in the corner just because the seam will kind of line up with this shoulder seam, but honestly it doesn't really matter. You can start wherever you want. I'm going to slip stitch to join, and then chain 6. Then I'm going to single crochet into the first from the hook. So I'm going to do 5 single crochets. And if you've never done a collar like this before, we're going to create a band that goes this way that's like elastic. So I'm going to slip stitch into my next chain to join, slip stitch into the next chain of the purple to start a new row, flip, and then back loop only, do my 5 single crochets. Chain 1 and repeat. Slip to join, slip to start a new row. Sometimes you luck out and the knot is not right in the middle of your stitch, but if it is, I usually pull it loose a little bit just to get those tails out of the way and then tighten it back up. Flip and continue. Get those pain in the ass things out of the way. There we go. When I'm trying to do a shorter collar like this, I mean, it's not really that short. You could probably do 4 stitches pretty easily. I find if you try to go too short, then with the ribbing, it kind of just looks like bunchy and weird. So I usually do 5 is about the shortest. You could probably get away with 4. If you wanted this to be more of like a mock neck, you could obviously go taller. So I'm just gonna do this all the way around and then do the same thing on the hem. So I'll meet you back when we're finished with that. Okay. We're still looking at this inside out, but I've got the collar finished. I did the same thing with the hem, but I did 8 chains instead of 5, just to make the hem a little bit longer. Now the last step is to do the sleeve, and I think this honestly looks cool both ways, so I'll show you the first one I did. So here is the purple, that initial row of single crochets that we did around both sleeves, the neck, and the hem. Then I did 2 rows of slip stitches, which I'll show you. 1 pink, 1 blue, and then another row of single crochets in the green. So I'm going to, this is what it looks like on the inside. I think that looks really cool too. So you can choose which way you like it and which way you want to be facing forward. I'm actually going to do different colors on this side just to keep with that theme. So I'll show you how I went ahead and did that. So we've got our first row of single crochet already. Then I'm going to start with this light purple. I contemplated doing the same for both sleeves just to switch it up, but I think I'm going to see how this looks. If I change my mind, I might redo it, but I kind of picked colors that were different from the ones that are already happening all around the sleeve. So I'm just slip stitching either on or near the seam, and I'm just going to do a row of slip stitches all the way around. And there we go. Turn it right side out, which you can't even really tell the difference because of all of those strings. Yeah, I think I really like the two different colored sleeves. I think that looks really cool. And that it's horizontal on the back and vertical on the front. Alright, so now comes the not so fun part of trimming all the ends. For something like this where there's a crazy amount of them, what I will usually do, like the knots are all really tight, so everything's tied off except at the seams, but I will flip them to the inside first and make sure the knot is securely on the inside and then just trim. So I don't weave in every single one of these ends. The seams I will tie together more securely and then weave in. So I'll do all of that and then show you the finished product. So here we have the finished rainbow scrap yarn vest. I actually sort of think I like the horizontal stripes better. Part of me kind of wishes that I had made that be the front instead of the back, but I do like it either way. I think this is just like a really fun, colorful piece. I really sort of like the randomness of all the colors. That's why I like to make my yarn fall beforehand, is to keep that sort of random. If you like this video and you want to see more from me, feel free to subscribe. I post videos 2 to 3 times a month, and I do crochet content at least once a month. Thanks so much for watching this one, and check out my other crochet videos in my playlist. See you next time.